Greetings, ladies, gentlemen. Welcome to Games on Easy Mode, the gaming channel that makes things a bit easier than normal. Elden Ring is by far my favorite From Software game, for the simple reason that it is an open world From Software game, and that Games of Thrones writer George R. R. Martin is responsible for writing the lore for it. The world is so hauntingly beautiful, and exploration in it is right up there with the dumbfounding story and frantic boss fights. And the music all but elevates them to a higher level. You can find the soundtrack at the link below or at the channel's homepage. Even though I would hate to take anything from you from your sense of exploration, wonder, and discovery, I still think these few basic pieces of information and tips that I am about to talk about and present in this guide will be useful to you throughout your journey in the lands between. And in that thought, I take comfort. I will keep this spoiler free, since nothing I will show or talk about takes place after the first hour or so. I will also try to keep things as simple as possible, since I aim to make this guide easy even for players who may have never played any of the previous Souls games or even know what a Souls game might be. I will begin right after where we finish the game's tutorial, so make sure you do that first. And while doing it, do not skip reading those bright messages on the floor, as they will be your instructions on the basic mechanics in the game. Mechanics such as the light and heavy attacks, dodging, jumping, healing yourself, and so on. I will also not be going through classes in this video, nor on which starting item, your keepsake, you should pick. I will instead let you know that a class with a range option, preferably spells over bows, will make fighting a bit easier, especially in the first stages, and that most of the keepsakes can be acquired later while playing the game. So, right after the tutorial boss fight, which it doesn't matter whether you defeat or not, if you do defeat it by the way, you won't have much trouble in the fighting department, you will find yourself in a room where the tutorial takes place as we stated above. If you fall to your right, the tutorial begins, and at the end, which will bring you full circle to where you were, you get a cool emote from the soul of the dead body hanging on a ledge. If you decide to skip the tutorial, like in this guide, just go straight and open the door in front of you. Behind that door, you will see a set of stairs that will lead to a lost side of grace. If you pick the spellcaster, allocate your flask quantities to your liking while resting at it. Pick up any items you see in the room, take the lift up, to find yourself opening the door into the mysterious and wonderful world of the lands between. Limgrave would be our first area. Here is where most of this guide will take place. Touch and get your first lost side of
Oh,
grace on the
yes.
outside world.
Tarnished, are
Talk
we?
to the man
Come to
standing
the lands
nearby,
between for the
Bare.
Elden Ring? Hmm? Of course you have. No shame in it. Unfortunately for you, however, you are maidenless.
Try to ignore his
Without
subtle
guidance,
insult of you
without
being
the
maidenless.
strength of
He doesn't
runes,
mean it
and
negatively.
without an
Maidens do have a
invitation
very
to the
important role
round
on
table
the lore of
hold,
the lands
you
between,
are
and you
fated,
will have one
it
if you choose
seems,
to.
to die
Make
in
sure you exhaust his
obscurity.
dialogue and take the path straight and slightly to the left to arrive at the Church of Ellen. There you will discover a second lost side of grace to activate. You can spot those from a bit of a distance by the golden dust particles around them, a haven for the tarnished scattered across all the land. Proceed to the anvil to pick the item sitting on it, a smithing stone level 1. These come in many levels and are used to increase the attributes of many of your weapons. Each level of Smithing Stone will upgrade your weapon to a certain level and not higher. Additionally, you can use this very anvil to upgrade any weapon up to level 3. There, Kale the Merchant is waiting for you. This is the most important first merchant you should find.
You're a tarnished.
Talk to the
Items
merchant
that I
and
can
let him
also see.
introduce himself,
But
then
then
go
why
through
not
his
purchase a
wares.
little
The
summa and
first two
carne?
items to pick should be a
Purveyor
torch
of
to
fire.
light your way in dark areas and the crafting kit that will unlock your ability to craft items. You can access your crafting menu every time you rest at the side of Grace or anywhere in the lands between, as it will be added to your user interface right between where you can see your equipment and inventory menus. Those two will cost you 500 runes, which you can get from killing all kinds of enemies. Cracked pots should be your second priority as they are reusable, and then cookbooks that will give you access to more item recipes. Armor, arrows, a telescope, and notes with useful information are there too, and you can always come back for them. Next, and by far the most important component, will be getting Torrent and striking an agreement with our maiden, as we stated earlier. You can do both of those as soon as you can activate and rest at our third Lost Site of Grace. Any three Lost Site of Graces will do, but visiting the one I will be going right now will serve a few other purposes in the area around it. So, head up north into the foggy area of the map and avoid or kill any enemies you encounter. Also, it is a good habit to pick any materials along the way since you can never have enough. If you haven't gone through the tutorial, know that you can two-hand wield any weapon by pressing and holding the triangle button and then R1 on PlayStation for a bit more damage per hit. Upon discovering and resting at the third lost site of Grace, a cutscene will automatically begin, and Melina will appear to introduce herself and offer to be your maiden if you agree.
Greetings. I am Melina. I offer you an accord.
Her
In
offer
your
will be
search
to
for the
turn your
Elden Ring,
runes into strength as long as you bring her with you on your
you need
journey
only
all
take
the
me
way
with
to
you
the Great Earth Tree. You have the option to reject her
to the foot
agreement,
of the
but doing
Erd Tree.
so will result in you being unable to increase any of your
Then it's
stats
settled.
or get torrent.
Summon me
You
by
will,
grace
however, be given the chance
to
to
turn
accept her
runes
accord
into
again
strength.
every subsequent time you rest at any site of
Ah,
grace. After
another
you
matter.
agree, she will give
I
you the
bequeath
spectral
to
steed
you this
Wisdom,
ring.
the item that will from this point forth use to summon Torrent, your Elden
Use
Ring
it
mount.
to traverse great
You
distances.
can put your mount's whistle in one
It
of the
will
quick
summon a
access
spectral
slots in your
steed
pouch so you can
named
mount fast
Torrent.
if ever need to quickly get out of danger.
Torrent has chosen you.
As soon as you get Torrent,
Treat him with
return to the
respect.
Church of Elle where we first met our first merchant. You can fast travel to any discovered lost site of Grace from the world map.
This way, tarnished. May I
And it
have a
should
word?
become nighttime when a new very important character will be waiting for
A
you
pleasure
there.
to meet thee,
Rene, a
tarnished.
witch,
I
will
am the
tell you
witch
stories
Venna.
she heard
I'd heard
about the
tell of a
tarnished
tarnished hurtling
that
about
Thorin
atop a
himself has
spectral
chosen
steed,
to carry throughout
and
his
upon
journey
looking
into the
into the
lands
matter,
between.
the
This
talk
is
I
us.
surmise is
She
of
will then
thee.
ask to
Thou art
confirm that
possessed of a
indeed it
power,
is
no,
us the
to call
spectral steed
forth a
has
spectral
chosen,
steed
and
named
we will
Torrent.
confirm as such. She will then present us with the spirit calling bell
Ah,
and Lone
as I
Wolf
had
ashes.
hoped, I was
The spirit
entrusted this
calling
for
bell
thee,
is a key
by
item
Torrent's
and it
former
does not
master.
need to be equipped to be used. It only needs to be in your inventory. Spirit ashes are a
'Tis a
prominent
bell for calling
mechanic
forth
and a way of
spirits.
spellcasting that
Summon them
uses
with it.
focus power
From ash
(FP)
and
to
return
be
to the Erd
summoned
Tree.
and fight by your
The
side.
spirits will obey thine command but briefly,
They do not require
as they
any
recall
level of
battles
intelligence
past.
or faith to
Now
be
it is
cast,
thine,
but stronger
to do with
spirits
as thou
that you will
wishest.
find later will require more focus points to be cast. So,
Forgive
investing
my
some runes
intrusion,
in leveling
Tarnished.
the mind
I doubt we
ability
shall
would be
again
a good
meet.
idea.
But all the
The
same,
Lone Wolf Ashes and
learn well
all
the
other
lands
Spirit
between.
Ashes can be
How long will
equipped
it
from your
be, I
equipment
wonder,
tab down
before
where
the
your
Tarnished
consumable tab
tire of
is and
obeisance from
cast
2
by pressing
fingers?
the square button or the button you use to heal yourself depending on your controller type. In addition, all Spirit Ashes you find in the world can be summoned only once per encounter or after you have rested at a site of grace, so you might want to manage the time you choose to summon them. Back to the Gatefront side, you can loot the 2 carriages for 2 good starting melee weapons, the Lord's Sword Greatsword and the Flail that both scale with strength and dexterity. Clear the nearby ruins from more enemies for runes and possible armor or armaments. You will use those runes to get your first few levels and buy any other items you might need from Kale the Merchant back to the Church of Elden. Also, you can use the weapon and armor the soldiers might have dropped to better your chances at combat. The Spirit Wolf Ashes make this a lot easier and faster. And by the stone path right after the first carriage, you will see a pillar with bright yellow writings on it. Right at the base, you will see a glowing, slightly purple item, contrary to the white ones, which indicates that the item is of higher value. And this is because it is. This is a map of West Limgrave, a map that will reveal the terrain and later add on it any areas you visit so you can easily revisit them. Once you clear the area, walk down the stairs to the whetstone knife, another essential key item, and the Ash of War Storm's Thumb. The whetstone knife you just got is used to apply the Ashes of War when resting at a site of grace, and can be activated by the L2 button consuming FP. Some are for swords, others for axes, bows, even staffs and shields. You can see each weapon's equipped Ash of War in the slot to the left in the description area in your equipment menu. You can also swap them without any cost. Here, at the second carriage is the flail we mentioned earlier. It has 18 dexterity requirement to wield, so you might not be able to do so immediately with most classes unless you've invested your first levels into dexterity. Clearing all enemies in the ruins will give you about 1200 runes, which you can repeat every time you rest at the site of grace due to the fact that all enemies respawn every time you do so. These 1200 runes will be enough for you to level up once per run for your first 5 to 10 levels, even a few levels more. So this can also serve as your first rune farming site. Additionally, a new game mechanic added to Elden Ring allows partial replenishment of your flasks upon killing all enemies of a certain area, like we see here. If you are a melee fighter, it is generally recommended to spend some of your early levels in Vigor, which is your health bar, and to your strength or dexterity for damage increase depending on your weapon of choice. On the other hand, if you're a spellcaster, you should spend your early runes on leveling your FP bar and your intelligence or faith for more spell casts and higher damage. As it is with the west side of the map, so it is with the east. We will need to locate the pillar with the yellow writing that holds the map. Upon progressing into the foggy area of the map, the only visible mark on it will be that pillar. Place a marker on your map and head in that direction. Limgrave, our starting area, has 2 maps, so go ahead and pick this one up as well to map the complete area. Approaching our second pillar, we should see a teardrop scarab. Chase and kill these when you see them, as they drop useful items like this new Ash of War with the ground slam ability. The spiked cracked tear and green spilled crystal tier are nearby. Pick those two as well, since are used together with another item that we will see towards the end of our guide. The next thing we should do is to add some diversity to our combat style, and to do that, we're going to need a staff so we can cast sorceries. It is essential unless you have picked the astrologer or the prisoner class that starts with one. You can also find and use these gusts of air while mounted on Torrent to reach higher levels of terrain. You can activate them by walking over them and jumping. You have some control over the direction while you are in the air. To obtain our first easy staff, we will need to find and kill a lone noble sorcerer. We can find one of those just south of the Waypoint ruins and get his. It is the Glintstone staff, and killing him has 100% drop rate, so you will get it for sure the first time you kill him. There is a pack of wolves in the area, so make sure to kill them first. The noble sorcerer himself will not attack unless we get close to him. As for our first spell, things will get a bit harder, but I promise this is the hardest thing you'll have to do in this guide. You will need to kill your first optional boss, a mad pumpkin head. He is located under the Waypoint ruins nearby. He is relatively slow, but he can hit hard, so try to avoid his attacks by rolling on his side or backwards. Do not attempt to attack his head, as he takes next to zero damage, and try to find yourself at the back part of his body for when you're about to attack. Also, do not attempt more than 1 or 2 hits at a time. You can also summon your spirit wolves for the fight. Keep your cool and you will defeat him. After doing so, get the lost side of grace and open the iron door to find Selen the sorcerer. Agree to learn from her and she will then sell you your first spells. The glintstone pebble is the most useful since it has a good range, decent damage and a low casting cost. After you get your spell, equip it, through a side of grace, and with your staff, try it on some nearby enemies to get a sense of the damage and rage it has, as well as FP consumption. Having a whole new way of dealing with enemies is always a good idea. We are now moving on to the last two very important matters of this guide, which are the acquisition of the Flask of Wondrous Physic and how you can get to the Round Table Hold. The Flask of Wondrous Physic is a replenishable consumable item similar to our healing potions, with the exception that we can choose the type of elixir that goes in it. We can do that by using any 2 crystal tiers like the ones we found earlier, or any other we can find throughout our journey while resting at the lost side of grace. It has only one use. To get it, we must travel to the third church of Marika, which is located to the northeast side of Limgrave. There, you will find a lost side of grace, and under the statue of Marika, you will find a sacred tier, which is used to increase the amount your flask will replenish per sip. And across the side of grace, you will see a stone tray, and in it will be the Flask of Wondrous Physic together with the Crimson Crystal Tier. As we said earlier, crystal tiers are used to create custom elixirs that are mixed inside the Flask of Wondrous Physic. After you pick it up, you will see a new option anytime you rest at the lost side of grace. Feel free to combine any of the two, as there are many ways you can enhance your gameplay utilizing those. Finally, we will see how to gain access to the Round Table Hold, which is perhaps the most important area of the game, both to progress the story and strengthen your avatar. To do so, we will simply need to find and rest at any lost site of grace that is outside Limgrave and on the open map. As lost site of grace in caves or catacombs do not count for this purpose. To do that, we'll have to go to the Dragonburn ruins, an area located nearby the first step, the lost site of grace, which was the first lost site of grace discovered after we walked out into the open world. Make sure you have your health flasks full, mount up, and head there. Upon reaching there, we should search for the stairs leading to the underground part of them. Be careful before entering, as it is infested with giant rats and they will make a quick meal of you given the chance. Equip your torch, kill them. This would be a good opportunity to use your staff and your new spell. And go for the door. Behind it is a chest. This is no ordinary chest. Open it and stand and stay inside in the grey smoke cloud that will teleport you to the Celia Crystal Tunnel in Kaelit. This is a higher level area outside Limgrave, which is exactly where we were looking for. Do not attempt to find any enemies there, just run for the site of grace in the tunnel. It is a short run, but do not stop for any reason. Rolling also will help you. Activate this site of grace and proceed outside to get what we're here for, another lost site of grace in the open areas of the map. Mount up once more and head left from the tunnel's exit, and you should not encounter any enemies. They are there, but you're gonna have to go looking for them if you want to fight. Soon you will find the nearest and safest sites of grace around the tunnel by the swamp of Ionia. Rest there, where Melina will show up once again, apologizing for testing you, as she will explain, was not sure about you being the one to reunite and hold the Elden Ring, and that she, as Torrent did first, believes now you have the medal to fulfill your task in the lands between. She will then offer to do one more thing for you, and that would be to bring you to the Round Table Hall, a gathering place for all Tarnished, as we mentioned earlier, where all major events will unfold from this point on. This will be your true beginning in becoming the new Elden Lord. Thank you for being here, and that you chose to take these few early steps in the lands between with me. Do look forward for more Elden Ring guides from the channel. It's been great having you, and seeing you at the next one will be even greater. So, thank you for staying until the end of the video. I would like to grab that opportunity you gave me and direct your attention to the Games on Easy Mode merch store. Here, you can find a line of clothing including beanies. You might also know them as skull caps. They come in many different colors and organic materials. You can get amazing pillows in 2 different sizes, a cook's apron for your cooking escapades, all kinds of shirts, long sleeve or short sleeve, a raincoat, a keyring, stickers for your kids to decorate the house, or their notebook, which is also sold here. My all-time favorite, the can cooler, which does exactly what it says it does. It keeps your can cool for a longer period of time. Leggings for you to pretend that you're going to exercise later, but you know you don't need to because you look amazing. And many other things. Supporting me might help me get a green screen cloth
so you can see other things behind me other than that. And a camera with a microphone, so I can use my phone for other stuff. You can get everything delivered anywhere in the world, and you can find the link for the shop down in the description of this video or at the home page of the channel at the About section. Thank you again very much, and good shopping.